Hello and welcome to Zenatta's monthly webinar here on Zoho One. So my name is Tyler Colt, and in this webinar, we're going to be breaking it down into two main sections. So up front, I'm going to go over Zoho One, the pricing, a high-level overview of really all the different departments and applications that are going to be included within it. And then in the back half of our tutorial, we're actually going to walk through the Zoho One Admin panel, the dashboards, the admin tools, adding users to applications, just to show that side because it really does make your life a lot easier just having everything in one space. So before we jump in, I do want to ask if you find this video useful, please be sure to like and subscribe down below. That really helps us out and lets us know that we're making videos that you all are enjoying. If it sparks any questions or additional video requests, leave those in the comment section down below that like button. And as always, if you need some help with your Zoho installation, just head on over to Zenatta.com, click on book a meeting, and we'll be chatting about how we can help in no time. So without any further ado, let's get into kind of a high-level overview. So I'm going to be using two different pages as we go through this. One of them is actually just going to be Zoho's page on Zoho One, and then the other is going to be the Zenatta resource library here, where we cover all of these applications in detail. So at a high level, what is Zoho One? Well, it is an umbrella subscription, kind of like a master license, that's going to give you access to essentially every single Zoho application. That's ranging from your sales team to your marketing, to your services, finance, HR, operations, e-commerce, as well as all of our internal productivity tools like document management, chat, email, project management, and general productivity applications. And so one of the interesting things with Zoho One is that it's licensed in a pretty interesting way, where they have these two different plans. So we get a lot of questions on this, so I wanted to cover it kind of early in the walkthrough. The two different ways that you can license Zoho One are either on an all-employee basis, which gets you a ridiculously low price, but it does require that every W-2'd employee at your company has a Zoho One license. The other side of it is the flexible user pricing, which is at a higher monthly or annual rate, but it does not have that requirement. So if you just need maybe half of your company on Zoho One and everyone else doesn't need it, then you might be looking more at that flexible user pricing. What I will tell you is that 9 times out of 10, people do end up on all employee pricing, because what happens over time is you might start your Zoho One implementation primarily around sales. Maybe you kind of get Zoho One on that flexible user and you're implementing, CRM, bookings, and then maybe some email marketing and campaigning. But then what happens is 3 or 4 months later, your Zendesk subscription is coming due and, they send you that contract for a 3-year renewal and you go, I wonder if Zoho Desk might get the job done for us. Spoiler alert, it probably will. It's a phenomenal tool. Then later on, maybe you have a similar thing. You're looking at Microsoft projects. You're looking at Zoho projects and you go, hey, these are kind of the same thing. Maybe we should just move everybody over. Another big area of savings is like digital signature, right? Being able to move off of DocuSign at $90 a user, right? And just get everybody into Zoho One. So now your sales team has access to everything that they need. So at a high level, that's kind of the way that the licensing is going to work, is that you will add a user to Zoho One, and then you can go in and permission them to only the applications that are relevant for that particular user. So another thing just to clear up, when you're on Zoho One, that does not mean that every single user has to have access to every single application. And again, like I mentioned in the back half of this video, I'm going to actually go over that in a bit more detail and show you how that admin panel works. With that initial coverage of licensing out of the way, let's actually jump into each and every one of the applications that is included inside of Zoho One. And I'm going to run through these alphabetically. Again, over at Zenatta.com and in our resource library, under this Zoho Bundles tab is where we have all of this. I think it's the easiest place to find every application and a high level about what it does. So we're going to jump in and kind of use this as our baseline. So starting out right at the top with Zoho Analytics, this is essentially like your Power BI, your Tableau, right? That master reporting tool where you're going to pull in data from really like the rest of these Zoho apps, your CRM, your ticketing tool, your Zoho projects, your marketing, right? You're going to pull that into one environment and then slice and dice that data to be able to report on it exactly how you want to see it, right? So this is where you're creating those commission dashboards. This is where your executive summary, right, is going to live. How did we do last quarter? What's forecasted for next quarter? All of those types of internal reporting is all nested inside of Zoho Analytics, and it is a great place to actually manage those reporting operations. Next here is kind of a simple application. You will also notice in our resource library, we kind of rank all of these based on the pros and cons of them. Not all Zoho One apps are made equal. So as you're evaluating Zoho One, just as a quick note, you want to trial out a lot of these apps, right? Because you might be using 5 or 6 different things that you're like, hey, I can probably replace that with Zoho apps. Test them out first just to be safe. If you're looking at CRM, you're looking at Desk, I'll bet you're going to love it and you're going to be able to move over no problem. Some of these more auxiliary applications like Zoho Assist, maybe you'll end up wanting to keep what you currently have. And so we'll just want to bake that into your total cost to make sure that it still makes sense. So Zoho Assist is essentially remote support, right? This is like, I'm going to send someone a link, they're going to open up that link, and then I get remote access to their device to provide technical support. Zoho uses this internally for their support operations. It is solid. It is functional. It doesn't have voice chat, and there's a couple little odds and ends that make it less than ideal. But if your requirements are pretty simple, Assist is likely going to work for you. BackStage is a really interesting one. This is Zoho's event management platform. They use this to actually run Zoholics and all of their events. What this is essentially like an Eventbrite, right? Where I can come in, I can create my event, I can invite all my participants, whether they're like an attendee or an exhibitor. People can actually buy tickets through this. You can print badges through this. One of the interesting things about it is that you do pay on a per event basis. So Zoho One is going to include one big event per year, and then you can purchase additional events if you need them. But you don't pay any commission on the ticket sales. And so a bit of a math equation there where if you are looking at BackStage, you want to price compare it against the other things that you're using. If you run a lot of small events, probably doesn't make sense. If you run a small amount of big expensive events, BackStage could definitely save you quite a lot of money. Bigin is going to be next up here. This is a lightweight CRM that is pretty much designed primarily for mobile usage. So this is can be integrated directly to Zoho CRM, kind of their big application, so that you can sync your pipeline back and forth. So relatively lightweight in terms of the functionality, but the look and feel is extremely easy to use. And so where a lot of people end up having it is that CRM is going to be their primary home base, but then they're syncing that over to Bigin for some of the more mobile or easy to manage process areas. Zoho Billing is next up. This is Zoho's subscription management platform. So you're able to have somebody sign up into a recurring billing cycle. Really interesting tool. We do like it quite a lot. One of the nice things about it is any of those different subscription actions can trigger other automations, right? So somebody signs up, I can easily automate that they get an email. If somebody's going to cancel, I can notify someone and we can try to win them back. So pretty customizable tool in the world of subscription managers. A lot of these are pretty much like, hey, you turn it on, it does what it does, nothing else. This is a really flexible tool where you can really make it do exactly what you need based on your particular requirements for your subscriptions. Next up is going to be bookings. This is kind of like a Calendly and Acuity. Not going to spend a lot of time on this one. It has some issues with calendar integrations where if you're like me and you want to connect it to Google Calendar and tie it into a bunch of different ways that meetings get created, you can have some issues. So we normally actually don't really recommend Zoho Bookings. Zoho Books is next up. This is the equivalent of like a QuickBooks or like a Xero. This is Zoho's back-end accounting tool. We use this internally. It's pretty phenomenal. Really, only a couple downsides to it is just they don't have a direct integration with a lot of payroll providers where you kind of want to just like run your ADP and then it just comes right in. They're working on a lot of those, and Zoho Payroll is getting supported in more and more places, but a really good tool. A lot of people love this for two main points. One, the transaction management. The way that it works to create and send an estimate, get that digitally accepted, and then be able to automate your invoicing and your onboarding and kind of everything based on that is really useful inside of Books. And then the other side is that it ties directly into Zoho CRM. So inside of, let's say, like a deal, you can see your estimates, your orders, your invoices, and really everything on the accounting side of the house. Next up here is going to be Zoho Calendar. This is a quick one. It's Google Calendar. It's Outlook Calendar. It's kind of the same thing. Normally, you're not going to use this unless you're moving all the way over to Zoho Mail, but it is a functional calendar that has some special sauce to it, kind of like the way you can chat about meetings using streams, the fact that you'll get these direct integrations into other Zoho apps. So it is a good one, but it is a calendar. You get it. We don't need to spend too much time talking about that one. Zoho Campaigns is going to be next up. This is their outbound email marketing tool. It is a solid application. We have it kind of ranked lowly just because of two main reasons. You will see odds and ends, little bugs with this tool that will get in your way. And then occasionally your templated emails just look a little funky when somebody opens them up. Oftentimes it's actually more of an issue on the Outlook side with the way that it processes emails, but there are other email tools that handle that better. But at a high level, the fact that it connects directly to CRM, pulls in your data, you're able to create those different lists and segments and then send out any drip or one-time emails to them. It is a great value, just the fact that it is integrated directly in and included in your licensing. So well worth considering, but it is one of those tools where we're going to want to side-by-side this against what you're using right now, just to make sure that it's going to replace all of the functionality that you currently have without any issues on your side. Zoho Checkout. This is another quick one. We don't really use this one very often. It's a really simple little way to build a page where somebody can check out, run their credit card, and process a payment. We do have some issues with it just because you don't really have a big API. You can't really customize it too much or report on the outputs. So it's pretty rare that we're going to use that one. But it is a really simple solution. And so if you just need like, hey, I need a page on my site where I'm going to take donations, right? I want someone to pick the amount, run their card, and then it gets deposited. It'll work for things like that, but not much else. Zoho Cliq is a phenomenal tool. So this is similar to like a Microsoft Teams or a Slack potentially, where this is for your internal chat, video call, audio call, right? All of those types of tools. So you're creating different channels and conversations with either 1, 2, 3, or more people that are involved in them. This is a phenomenal tool. It's a big cost saver if you have something like Slack, right? There's really not a big reason not to move over to this. And migration is extremely easy. So really, if you're on Slack, you just drag and drop like a backup file, and it will just recreate everything for you directly inside of Cliq. Almost all of our clients that are on Zoho One end up using Cliq for that reason, just because why would you pay for another tool that is already included in Zoho One? Now, Zoho Commerce, this is an interesting one. This is similar to like a Shopify or a WooCommerce. This is the ability to create a little web page that is going to sync up with your products inside of Zoho Books and Inventory, display them, and allow people to check out via a cart. This is a solid application. We do love it for the inventory integration. It's not as pretty and seamless as something like Shopify from like the web design and configuration points, but the integration is great. One of the things that is really nice about Zoho Commerce is that it can integrate directly to your Zoho inventory account, and it can actually pull in price lists. So if you're selling via e-commerce to like a network of resellers or distributors, and maybe they have different pricing, they can actually log in to Zoho Commerce, and then it will automatically apply the appropriate price list as they're going through their purchase and checkout flow. So really good one. Good for that niche, right? Not always the best fit, but it does have some of those special sauce components that make it pretty interesting. Zoho Connect is up next. This is like an intranet tool, right? So if you want to have an internal platform where your employees can come in and host town halls, answer FAQs, store some manuals, right? You can do all of that here within Zoho Connect. Next up is going to be contracts. This is an interesting one. Most people don't need contracts. This is really for if you have a legal team and you want a salesperson to be able to essentially propose a contract, have it get reviewed and approved, negotiate back and forth with the client, and then execute that finalized version. It can be pretty great for that. For teams that don't have like a big legal department, you probably don't need it. But if you do, or if you grow into it, it is included with Zoho One. Zoho Creator, this is one of our favorite applications. This is their low-code application builder, where you're essentially going to start from scratch and build whatever the heck you want. We do a lot of work within Creator in two different ways. One, as like a full application build out, but two, and almost more commonly, is using Creator to extend the functionality of other Zoho apps, right? So maybe you're in CRM, you need to be able to send a really complicated quote or a really complicated proposal. You might actually create a little Creator app that integrates to your CRM deals, let's say, where you can create, format, and send that document in a more robust application. But then you're just going to pick the rest of your workflow right back up in CRM where you're more comfortable. So really good one. We find tons of use cases for it. With Creator, as a general tip, as you're onboarding into Zoho One, if something can be done equally as well in a native Zoho app, so CRM, projects, desk, don't rebuild it in Creator, right? Use Creator when you need it, when a specific Zoho application is not able to handle a requirement that you have. Next up on the list is going to be Zoho CRM. Of course, this is like the workhorse behind a lot of Zoho applications. Unsurprisingly, we do love this one. As you're getting into Zoho One, what you'll find is that a lot of applications are essentially going to like roll up and connect in to the CRM. So if you're getting started with Zoho One from scratch, you almost always want to start here and then build the implementation out into campaigns, into projects, into Zoho Desk, because a lot of your data structure and data management is all going to start here. This is one of Zoho's applications where we're pretty comfortable saying, hey, this is as good as anything else on the market, right? You're looking at Salesforce, you're looking at HubSpot. Obviously, everything's going to have its own pros and cons, but in terms of the overall value, the customization, the flexibility of the Zoho CRM, I will take this against basically any other competing application. Next up is DataPrep. This is a really cool one, and it almost should be renamed DataPipe because it has two main purposes. One, it has the ability to take in your raw data, maybe like a spreadsheet that you got from a trade show, run it through some cleanup, and then allow you to export it or import it into other Zoho apps. One of the other things that it can do is essentially serve as a pipeline tool. So you can connect this to something like, that Microsoft Access server or your SQL server that's running in your basement, right? You can install DataPrep on that local device and actually set up a data pipeline where it will clean up and automatically import the data into various Zoho applications. So a really cool one that can actually save you a lot of time as you're doing a Zoho implementation, because you actually might not need to build that custom integration, right? It might just be able to be done natively with something like Zoho DataPrep. Next up is Zoho Desk. This is another phenomenal Zoho app. So this is your ticketing, your customer experience, your knowledge base. A lot of your chat tools are going to live inside of Desk. This is a great tool where you can essentially connect it to email, phone, messaging applications, where the inbound communications there will create tickets. We can respond and easily manage those all within Zoho Desk. And then we can pull out reports about how we're doing by agent, by team, by topic, right? By pulling out these different reports to kind of evaluate our success. Zoho Desk is one that we implement for a lot of people. Really, those big apps, CRM, Desk, projects, these are ones that we'll basically be comfortable putting against anything else on the market and saying, hey, consider this, right? Save some money, maybe move your team over and stop paying for those more expensive tools. Next one here is Zoho Expense. This is similar to like a Concur, right? Where employees can scan receipts, they can connect credit cards, they can submit those expense reports, you can approve them, and then they will write directly into Zoho Books. So if you're using Zoho Books as your primary suite for accounting, go ahead and try out Expense. It's really solid. It's come a long way in the last couple years. They've made a ton of improvements to it. And again, it's one of those tools where rather than having 20 sales reps and you're paying for licenses for Concur just so they can submit expenses when they go to a trade show, if they're already using Zoho CRM and you're already doing your billing out of Zoho Books, why not use Zoho Expense? Zoho Flow, this is a great tool. This is a bit of glue that you can use to hold together different applications, internal and external to Zoho. So this is really similar to like a Zapier, right? Where if a deal gets updated to a stage, a flow can trigger that's going to do all these things. One of the cool things about Zoho Flow is that you can do a lot of this without writing any code, right? Now, you can write code inside of Zoho Flow, and you're going to be able to do even more in the application if you do. But for a lot of those requirements, you might not need it. A big one here is that they include quite a lot of Flow tasks or credits with your license for Zoho One. And then on top of that, if you do need to purchase more, if you're like automating a lot of stuff through Zoho Flow, it is much, much cheaper than a lot of the competitors, the Zapiers, the Integramads, the Makes of the world. They're all going to be much more expensive than Zoho Flow. So if you're going to build one of those, why not do it in a less expensive environment? Zoho Forms is a phenomenal form builder. We use this all the time. Couple little downsides around the look and feel. You can't always make one of these as pretty as like a Ninja form, for example. But for really 9 times out of 10, this is going to get you the exact form that you need. And one of the beautiful things is that they have pre-built integrations for forms into CRM, into Desk, into campaigns, right? Into all these different tools so that you don't have to build a piece of middleware just so that a form on your website creates a lead in CRM, right? That's just pre-built. You basically just turn it on, map the fields, and then you are good to go. Zoho Inventory is next up on our list. This is a really solid inventory management tool for what it does. One thing that inventory is not going to do very well is manage a manufacturing process. But if you are the type of seller where you are buying from different vendors, maybe you're putting together bundles or kits, and then you're selling them through sales reps or maybe through like a Shopify or an e-commerce website, inventory is very likely going to get you exactly what you need. It is one, though, where you want to do some scoping with a company like Zenatta or a different Zoho partner and really just go over your requirements for this. It doesn't fit for everybody, just based on some of the specific needs. Like if you have a really big, long, complicated supply chain and you want to manage every single step, maybe you need more of like an ERP. But if you've got 10 vendors, you're buying product, you're selling product, give inventory a try. It's probably going to work great for you. Similarly, Zoho Invoice, this is a tool that really exists as a part of Zoho Books, but this is just a really easy way to create an invoice that's integrated with the payment processor like a Stripe or a PayPal and send it out to your customers to receive your payments. Next up is Zoho LandingPage, recently added to the Zoho One ecosystem. This is like an unbounce equivalent, where it's a really easy and simple way to design a landing page with a form on it that can then go to, your CRM, your marketing suite, whatever it may be. Works really well, does a great job at tracking UTM parameters and kind of storing all of those so that later you can pull some reports on like, hey, of all the people that landed on this page, where did they all come from, right? A lot of that is just going to be baked into landing page, and it's well worth taking a look at if you do need to create those for your business. Zoho Learn is another great one. So Zoho Learn does have some limitations that actually some of these are being worked on now. But Zoho Learn is essentially a LMS or learning management system that is integrated into Zoho One. One of the great things about this is that when you're on Zoho One, and especially if you're on that all-employee pricing, everybody's going to have access to this. So you can create different groups and profiles and roles, and then kind of assign them the appropriate training material. These can be like manuals and guides, or they can be like quizzes and tests, right? Where you need to finish this quiz and get this certification, then you're eligible for this promotion, right? And all of that can just be managed and learned, all included with your licensing. Zoho Lens is a pretty cool one. This is essentially built for mobile support. It is a mobile app that essentially gives your employee visibility into the camera of whoever is running Lens. So if you need to provide remote support on a physical object, like, hey, I'm having issues with this server rack, here's the lights that are blinking, right? Let me, point my phone at them so you can see. You'll be able to do that with Lens. This integrates with things like Zoho Desk. So if you were to get a ticket, you could make a request to join a Lens call and then get that information that you need to resolve the issue. Zoho Mail, this is their equivalent for like a Gmail, an Outlook. It is overall a good application. I will say, there's nothing unique about the way that Zoho Mail is going to integrate into other Zoho tools. So you don't need to feel obligated to move all of your emailing over. It does have some really cool features like the ability to use streams, which are essentially like opening up a chat communication internally about an email rather than like forwarding emails back and forth to our other team members. So worth a consideration, but we generally put it on the lower end of priority as we're looking at a Zoho One rollout. Next up here is going to be Zoho Marketing Automation. This is an interesting one because there's a lot of overlap between Zoho Marketing Automation and Zoho Campaigns. What we're kind of telling people is that we're seeing most of the new functionality get added for marketing automation. So if you're going to choose one or the other, we're kind of leaning a little more towards marketing automation nowadays. You do have little odds and ends bugs in there. A lot of those are being worked on heavily. But things like profile stitching, SMS, like a lot of more new tools that people are using for marketing do work a little bit better in Zoho Marketing Automation. But this is essentially a tool that's going to do some web tracking for you, connect into CRM, sync all of those people, and then create the different lists and segments where you want to do your email outreach. Next up is Zoho Meeting. This is equivalent to like a Zoom, right? A GoToMeeting. This is a digital meeting tool. This is one that I would love to love. Unfortunately, there are some downsides in terms of like the AV quality on it. If you're using this for like internal meetings where it doesn't really matter that much, as long as everyone can hear each other and see each other decently, then Zoho Meeting is probably going to do great for you and you don't need to pay for Zoom. Internally, we do use Zoom just because, again, that AV quality is quite a lot better outside of Zoho Meeting, especially if one of your meeting attendees has a bad internet connection. So this is one that you're going to want to test out and see how you feel about it. If you do like Zoho Meeting, save some money. But we do see some cases where it's not the best fit. Zoho Notebook, this is a great little tool. This is included in a bunch of their different bundles. This is like an Evernote, right? So a really easy place to create different folders, take notes within them. Even nowadays, like associate a note to a CRM record so that you can easily keep those in a easy to organize place. Definitely a good one. If you're on Zoho One, you might as well stop paying for your other note-taking tools because they probably do about the same thing as Zoho Notebook does. PageSense is a in-depth web tracking tool that you can install on your website that's going to allow you to do A/B testing, heat and scroll maps, some cart abandonment follow-up. Overall, it is a good tool. You do see a little bit of weirdness. So if you start using this, you might need to set up an A/B test a couple times before it really kicks in and works. Honestly, if it worked really consistently, it would be like a 5-star and we'd say it's great because the functionality is pretty awesome. You just need to tinker with it kind of a lot to get it to do exactly the test that you're trying to make it do. So one that if you're already using, GA4 or another web tracking tool, you may want to keep that. But it is worth trying out, especially if you don't have anything right now. Try this out first, see if it works well for you, and then move on to something else if you find that you have any issues with it. Zoho Payroll is their payroll processing application. This one's come a long way, so actually we need to update our site. This is actually supported in all 50 states now. Soon they're going to roll out the ability to have employees in more than one state. Right now it's 50 states, but everybody has to be in one state. This can handle the tax management, much of the payroll, a big part of the workflow, and then it will integrate directly into Zoho Books. So the downside is this isn't going to do like your 401k match or your healthcare administration, but as a payroll tool exclusively, it has come a long way and is well worth a consideration. Zoho People is their full suite HR management platform. This is a insanely robust application. It has so many features, so many functions. As you click through the different menus, it's like every menu leads to another menu, leads to another menu, leads to another menu. Does a great job at managing onboarding, PTO, vacation time. It's kind of a back-end tool that will get integrated with things like Zoho Projects for a lot of your time tracking as well. Absolutely a great tool. We don't work a lot with it because we don't consider ourselves to be HR experts, and you definitely need to set it up in a way that is compliant. But we have many clients that are successfully using Zoho People. This is one of those tools where when you're on Zoho One and you have all of your W-2'd employees on the platform, why not give this a try, right? Everyone already has a license. You might as well see if it works for you. Zoho Projects is a big one. So this is a similar tool to like a Microsoft Projects where you're setting up waterfall-based project management, largely via Gantt charts. Really, the way that this one works is people will create templates for the different types of engagements that they have. Oftentimes is going to be integrated with CRM, where, hey, when I win a deal in CRM, go ahead and automatically launch me a project that's integrated back to that deal based on particular template information. So it's going to handle your time tracking, your task management, your future workload allocation, a lot of your reporting that you need about your workforce usage is all going to come from Zoho Projects. It is a great tool. We will highlight, as always, that when it comes to project management, you'll need to find the project tool that works for you. Zoho has a couple: projects, sprints, Zoho tables. Zoho CRM can be used for a lot of task management. But this is one where a lot of people do end up on Zoho Projects because it's just so robust. Zoho Recruit is essentially their applicant tracking system, or ATS. This is a solid tool, but it is a hefty and kind of an ugly tool. It's really heavy to use. We use it because it's insanely functional. Some people find it a little bit clunky, but it is getting better and better. One of the great things about this is if you're like a staffing company, a recruiting company, give Recruit a look, because a lot of times what we'll set up is where, as you're working through a CRM deal, when you win that deal, we can actually automatically create a new job posting inside of Recruit based on all of that deal information, which can then go to the job boards, get the candidates, and kind of just kick off the whole hiring process for you. So well worth a consideration if you are a staffing and recruiting company, because of that CRM integration. It really does work great. SalesIQ, this is like your Swiss Army knife of web tracking. So this is going to give you chats, both manual as well as chat bots. It's going to give you visitor tracking, right? So for each visitor, where did they land? How long did they stay on each page? How many times have they come back? It's going to tie directly into CRM so that if somebody is to chat, it can create a lead automatically for future follow-ups. Really, really nice tool. We set this up for a lot of our clients. And again, keep in mind, like, even if you don't want the chat, even just the visitor tracking, like for your marketing team's usage, is really great out of SalesIQ. So figuring out like where people are going, what pages they seem to bounce off of, where the source of all of these web visitors are, is really useful information for your marketing team. Zoho Sheet, this is very similar to like a Google Sheet or Microsoft Excel. It has its strengths and weaknesses. A lot of people are going to stick with Excel till the day they die. I totally get that. If you are a deluge nerd, though, Sheet is actually pretty cool because you can run deluge functions within it. So you're not just restricted to like your traditional spreadsheet formula operations. You can actually run macros and automations using deluge. So that can be a pretty cool little application for that. Zoho Shifts, this is a very, very lightweight shift management tool. You're creating shifts, you're putting employees in them, they're saying, I went to the shift. Very lightweight, very high level, but if you just need something simple for managing that, it's already included and you don't need to pay anything more for it. Zoho Show, this is like your PowerPoint, your Google Slides, right? Same type of thing. Again, kind of the interesting thing that I'll highlight with this is that it has integrations for tools like Zoho Analytics, where if I have a certain dashboard or a certain chart, I can actually dynamically reference that in a show. And so like if I prepped a show on a Monday and I pulled that chart in and then I present it on a Friday, it's actually going to have the most updated data. So actually kind of interesting. Obviously, everyone has their own choices and preferences on what presentation tool they're going to use. But if you have a bunch of good reports and dashboards in analytics that you like to present on, give Zoho Show a look, because it might save you some time being able to just pull those in dynamically. Next up is going to be Zoho Sign. This is a big, big, big cost saver. If you have a lot of salespeople that have like a, some type of license into DocuSign so they can send proposals and contracts, moving them into Zoho Sign will save you in oodles of money. So if you're on CRM, you've got Zoho Sign. If we think about two big comparisons there, rather than like Salesforce and DocuSign, you might be paying $150, $200 per user for each user to have those. With Zoho Sign, $45 a user, and then they get both, right? So something to consider. This is a great tool for all of your digital signature needs. Over the last year, they've added a lot more management tools for like permissions and sharing and data visibility that have really made this into something that many, many organizations are going to be able to use. Zoho Sites is just a really simple and basic site builder. we don't love this tool. At the end of the day, you probably just want to use WordPress and like an Elementor theme over there, just because as you add more and more functionality to your website, you're going to hit the limit on Zoho sites. So like, let's say you have a website, you want to add an event calendar to it. If you're on WordPress, you're going to go to their marketplace, search event calendar. You're going to get 500 options that all have different reviews and pricing and pros and cons. With Zoho sites, you might just not be able to do that. So we generally don't recommend it unless it's for something really simple or maybe like a subdomain on your site that's just going to host certain specific content. Zoho Social is up next. This is like your Hootsuite equivalent, right? So you have that ability to create and schedule posts for Instagram, X, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, really bunch of different social media platforms. Honestly, a lot of these tools are basically the same as one another. So it's, again, another one of those tools where if you're on Zoho One, you might as well consider this. One of the big things I will highlight is if you're using, let's say, like Facebook lead forms or Meta lead forms, those will integrate directly to CRM to just immediately create leads with the appropriate source and attribution. So kind of a nice little value add there if you are doing any of those types of lead forms. Zoho Sprints is kind of the other side of the coin of Zoho projects. So if you guys operate a project less on a waterfall basis and more on like an agile or a sprint basis, that's where you're going to be looking at Zoho Sprints to manage that process. You can also use this as a part of a project. So you could say, hey, I've got 5 milestones in a project. Milestone 3, I'm going to treat it as a sprint, and I'm actually going to run it inside of Zoho Sprints. Biggest competitor here for sprints is Jira. That's kind of the default option that people will use. Again, with project management, you want to use something that works well for you. So don't force it into sprints, but it is worth giving it a try and seeing if it will manage a flow well enough for you, such that you can save some money on your current options for agile management. Zoho Survey is going to be up next. This is a great tool. So Zoho Survey is basically similar to like a Zoho form, right? Where we're going to drag and drop fields and then people are going to fill it out. It's just that Survey is built to be sent out, whereas Forms is built to be landed on, like on a page or on a website. Nice thing with Survey is that it has direct integration for CRM as well as campaigns and marketing automation. So like in our CRM, as we're going through an engagement, we're sending out NPS surveys that are directly integrated back to that deal record. So when our client gives us a 10 and they're like, hey, you guys are doing great, I'm loving it, that gets written back to my deal. And then I can pull any types of reports and dashboards that I need on that data. So again, if you're using like a SurveyMonkey and you're also using Zoho CRM, consider switching over to Survey because of that direct and perfect integration. Zoho Tables, this is a pretty lightweight application. This is similar to like an Airtable or like a Smartsheet, but I will be honest with you, less functionality right now. This is a new application that Zoho just rolled out in the last year. One of the nice things about it is that it does have direct integration for CRM. So if you had, let's say when you win a deal, you create some type of implementation record. You could then sync that implementation module over to Zoho Tables and work on it there instead. And that data is going to continuously be flowing back to CRM so that you still have an accurate data set there, but you're able to use more of like a rows and columns approach for managing a particular process if you do prefer that. TeamInbox, just going to touch on this one lightly. Realistically, if you're on Zoho One and you need like an environment where an email comes in and then it's shared with multiple people so that it can be worked on, just use Zoho Desk. This is just a really simple way to basically give not quite a delegated inbox, but a shared inbox environment for people to manage, read, and reply to different emails. But again, if you're on Zoho One, just setting up a really basic desk department for that is going to do you a lot better. And it's going to save you more time in the long run, so you don't have to switch over. Zoho Thrive is an interesting one. This is really for like affiliate and loyalty management. We're able to set up different point or compensation systems and then track the inflow of those referred people into your platform. So Thrive it's definitely a good one. We've got a full webinar on this one that goes through explaining it in a lot more detail that I would check out if I were you. But it is a pretty interesting little platform for a lot of that affiliate attribution. And so if you're doing a lot of affiliate or referral work, give that one a look. Zoho Vault, this is another big money saver, right? Like if you've got a team and you guys are using OnePass or LastPass or one of the many different pass named solutions, Zoho Vault is an absolutely great tool. What you're able to do here is essentially set up different vaults where credentials are loaded. It works for like login credentials, credit cards, API keys. They have a bunch of different kind of like credential types that could all be saved in here. And then it will do that autofill for you as long as you have like an extension installed in your browser. Next one here is WorkDrive. Boy, do I love WorkDrive. This is like your OneDrive, your Google Drive equivalent. What a phenomenal tool this is. Really easy to create different folders and folder structures. It's going to integrate directly into things like CRM. So like when I convert a lead and I create a contact on an account, a folder is automatically created for that account and then linked back to CRM so that I can easily go back and forth and see all of their files. This is, of course, going to tie into like Zoho Sheets, Zoho Show, Zoho Writer, which is like their Microsoft Word. This is going to be the back end for a lot of mail merge operations when we're automatically creating and sending documents. Absolutely phenomenal tool. And it does have pre-built migration tools for things like OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, Google Drive. So the switching over is actually a little less painful than you may think. Zoho Writer is essentially Zoho's equivalent for like a Microsoft Word or a Google Docs. Again, everyone's going to have their preferences in terms of keystrokes and where settings should be and everything there. But internally for us, we've basically switched all the way over just because, again, because we like the management tools of WorkDrive so much, it really is like much better for managing a team than something like Google Drive. We end up in Writer a lot because we're doing everything inside of WorkDrive. One of the big use cases for Writer as well, of course, is the ability to do mail merge and document automation, right? So I'm going to make a template, I'm going to store it in Writer, and then I'm going to add a magic button in my CRM deal where when I press it, it's going to use that template to create and send a document via something like Zoho Sign. Last one here is technically not out for the US, but it is on its way. This is Zakya, which is like their POS tool. So similar to like a Square, right? This is like on your tablet, you do your items, you run the card, right? Does the checkout. One of the cool things about this is that it's going to integrate directly into Zoho Inventory. For those who haven't worked in the integration space before, most POS systems are really, really frustrating to do custom integrations for. And so the fact that it's just going to pull right from your inventory, create your orders, log your invoices and payments is going to be much, much, much better than you having like a Square tablet and then having someone like me spend an inordinate amount of time trying to build a custom integration for it. So if you are someone who sells in person, keep an eye on this one because I think once it comes to the US, a lot of people are going to benefit by switching over to it as quickly as they can. With that, that is our rapid fire round done here on every single Zoho One app that is included. Now let's jump into the next part of this where I'm actually going to go over the Zoho One interface, some of the cool things about that, and then some of the admin functionality that lives behind the scenes. So here we are inside of our Zoho One dashboard. So there's kind of two ways that we're going to look at this. Part one, I'm going to show you Zoho One from the user perspective, and then I'm going to show it from the admin perspective. So here I am kind of as a user. I have this homepage, and what you'll see, one of the big advantages of Zoho One is that I have things I need to do in CRM, inside of projects, inside of desk. Maybe I have some files that I need to work with that are hosted over in WorkDrive. I can even see some of my like cash flow and receivables from Zoho Books. And I'm seeing all of that on one page. The name is fitting. You go to one place, one.zoho.com, and then I'm able to see activity or things that I need to do spread across many different applications. So if you are that kind of small to mid-sized business and you have employees that are cross-functional, like maybe I spend a little bit of time working on some deals in the morning, then I plug in and do some project work, and then my last couple hours of the day, I'm going to chip in and answer some tickets or some support requests. I have one page to do that rather than having 3 tabs open and jumping between them. Then outside of that, if we're to actually look over here on this left-hand side, you can navigate directly to these different applications from right within this one URL. So from one.zoho.com, I can go to CRM, I can go to projects, I can go to Zoho Desk without having to navigate away from this one environment. Then when I'm ready to go back to my homepage, I just click on home and then I'm back to my dashboard. And so users can essentially come in, look at any of these apps that they're working with, and then pin them to their list if it's an application that they're going to need to interact with pretty often. What you'll find is that for these different types of roles and users in your system, they're going to have different applications that they interact with every day. They might have different homepage views here on your Zoho One dashboard, and then they'll have different applications that are pinned for easy access when they are actually ready to work on a particular point in your process. So outside of some of those kind of high-level things for users, again, one of those big values is just having one place. People get fatigued when they have 20 different applications and they're jumping between all of them. And so even though technically these are different applications, we're able to wrap them up into one environment where they look a lot more similar and they're easier to find and navigate to. So now let's click on this little cog up in the top right, and let's take a look at Zoho One from an admin perspective, because there are some really cool things that you can do here that make your life much easier as the administrator of your software suite. So from our admin panel, step one, we have our dashboard. This just gives you some high-level information about people that are logging in, when people are accessing the tools, what applications they're signing into, and how many users are going into each of those. Your organization, this is just kind of your high level. I'm setting up the name of the company, our different work locations, our designations, which is kind of like a title or a role name, as well as if we have any standards that we want to set for our documents. Applications, this is where all of these different Zoho One applications are going to live. So if I want to add a new application into my suite, I just click add up in the top right. I choose the application. Maybe I have a couple little settings here. So like I'm adding contracts and it needs a currency. Then I can just click create account. And just like that, Zoho Contracts has been added for me. Now I can access it and use it however I need. Within each of these application tabs as well, you can go ahead and add users to it, either manually or via some conditional assignment. What I'll tell you is I normally don't add applications from this page. I'll show you how I do that instead. Now, under your users, this is where for each of your different users, you can open it up, reset their password, enforce, multi-factor. You can associate them with various security policies, and then you can associate any applications that they should be able to use. I do use this page occasionally just for coming in and easily adding an application for an individual user. But one of the most common ways that I'll actually add apps is via the groups and domains, and I'll show you that in just a moment. All right, so now that that's loaded here, we can see within applications, I could go in for a particular user, add a new application, determine which role they should have in that application, and then go ahead and assign it. So just like that, now this Tyler demo user would be able to access Zoho Analytics. I made them an admin, so they would be able to do anything inside of that suite. The admins tab just gives you a high level about who are the overall Zoho One admins. So like who can add users to apps or change owners. You can also then see within each specific application if you have somebody else who's an admin there. So like you might have one Zoho One admin, but 3 people are technically in the administrator role for like CRM or Zoho Desk. And so all of those are going to be visible here. And so as we scroll down, we can see, because I added the Tyler demo account as an admin for analytics, we'll see that here. Whereas a lot of the other applications just have a singular administrator that's been associated with them. Groups is a really, really useful one. So I'm going to add a group here and we're going to go through this together. Groups are basically like different roles in your company. The way that I use them a lot in Zoho One is for conditional assignment. And so what conditional assignment means is, let's say we have this moderator and then we have a member of a group. What we can do is actually come into our group and conditionally assign applications. And so this is where, most of the time users are going to be assigned to apps via this groups functionality. Because I might say that, anybody who is a consultant needs this set of permissions in Bigin. So I'll click save. And then maybe they also need, Cliq access for all users as a member, right? And so you're kind of going application by application here, identifying what type of role they are and what they need to have inside of each of these tools. Oops, I always forget to click this little save button. And so now if I were to add a user to this particular group, they will automatically be added to all of those apps. And so this saves you an absolute boatload of time when you're onboarding a new employee, because you just put them in the group, they get all the apps, you double check it real quick just to be safe, and then you're good, right? You don't need to worry about it anymore. Domains here is if you do have a primary domain that you want associated with Zoho One, you can go ahead and add and verify that. Really, this mostly matters if you're using Zoho Mail. Obviously, you'll want to have your domain set up. Otherwise, it's less of a big deal. Controls, these are some of the things around application registration. So what this means is if somebody is part of your Zoho One license, let's say you're not using Zoho Forms, or maybe you have not added them to Zoho Forms, this is basically going to block them from creating their own account and instead allow them to request access from you. This is a big deal because you don't want a bunch of random little demo accounts set up by different team members. So a couple things that help here. When you onboard on a Zoho One, I generally recommend just adding every single application, even if you're not going to use it, and even if they're only added for that one administrator user. What that does is it just makes sure that people aren't going to be able to land on something and sign up for it quite so easily. Now, this down here at the bottom, what I normally recommend here is enable this and say, hey, people cannot sign up on their own for a Zoho license in a different app if they're associated with my Zoho One account, because you just really don't need that, right? You don't need someone going to survey, making a new department, doing a bunch of work on a survey, and then realizing, oh, crud, I didn't do this in the corporate account. Now I have to redo all my work now that I've been added to the correct one. Security settings, these are essentially setting up your policies. So password policy, are we going to require multi-factor authentication? Do we want to lock down and only allow logins from certain IP addresses? And then should, timeouts on our sessions, should people be auto-logged out, right? Should there be a certain number of sign-ins, right? So can I go to 10 different browser tabs and sign in independently? You're able to set all of those up here just via your security policy. And then once you have a security policy configured, you can go ahead and assign that to different groups or particular users. Device management is essentially going to allow you to install agents onto local devices as a part of your Zoho One kind of security. So this gets into your managed device, right? We want to make sure that only certain Zoho apps are accessible on certain devices. Not everybody needs this, but it is there if you do. Directories are essentially connecting into your either HR or your single sign-on suite so that you can have that one environment where they sign on here and it gets them access to Outlook and Zoho through one. They do connect to many of the major directory sources, as well as just via a CSV if you do manage them independently. Marketplace here breaks down into two main things. So one of them is going to be your marketplace for plugins. A lot of these plugins are going to be for particular applications or little creator apps that you can install. The other side is your telephony. So if you do need to configure your telephony suite, maybe you've got Ring Central or whatever it may be, you want to start here at the Zoho One level, connect it to this, which is going to tie it into PhoneBridge, and then that will push out those connections into all of the other relevant Zoho applications. Lastly, we just have a set of reports for user management, login management, sign-ins, any different devices that are hitting the system. A lot of these are just going to be for that audit and security perspective. You'll have all of that reporting functionality for you here just within this reports tab. And so with that, I actually think we have wrapped up everything that there is to cover here on Zoho One. We've gone over a high-level overview of every single Zoho application, and then we've also showed it from the perspective of a user, as well as from the perspective of an administrator. So I really do hope that this video was useful for you. As always, if you do have any questions about Zoho One, just head over to Zenatta.com, drop us a line. We'd love to chat and kind of help you evaluate if it makes sense for you. If you found this helpful, please be sure to like and subscribe down below, as that really does help us out. And then if it sparks any feedback, video requests, or any questions, leave those in the comments section down below that like button, as we do try to read and respond to as many of those as possible every single week. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.